Well, that was introduction to the terrain system in Unity. This is one of our favorite units in Unity where we get to build cool terrains and get them to work. So we're going to start out with just some basic assets in this tutorial. So we're going to create a new 3D project. So I'm just going to go to Unity, do new project, and give it some name. And create that. Now, while that's being created, I'm going to download this asset pack here and just download that. And then we're going to import that into Unity here. So once we get created, we'll go to Assets, Import Package, Custom Package, and import that. I haven't found a nice simple set of assets. There's some larger ones we'll use in future tutorials, but this I've just put together a set of kind of basic assets so you can kind of create your first terrain relatively easily here. There. So okay, so my my project's created, so I'm going to go to Assets, Import Package, and Custom Package. Go to my Downloads area and find that package. Okay, so I'm going to find that package, open it up, and import all the components into Unity. So just hit Import. So now I'll see this new folder called Standard Assets, and in there there's an environment folder with some different objects in it. So I have a scene here, the basic sample scene here. I'm just going to save it as terrain scene or sample terrain. I guess maybe I'll put that in the scenes folder. Okay, so now I've got my scene saved. I'm going to add the terrain object. So again, our next thing is to create a terrain object here. So we're just going to go to Game Objects, 3D Objects, and go down to Terrain and create a terrain object. So often what you do is create one of these terrain objects. They're very large planes that you'll sculpt. So I zoom out, they're huge planes. It'll be called terrain. We usually leave it called terrain. And then when we click on it, it'll have a whole menu system over here for building the terrain. But you have to have the terrain objects selected. And then in the inspector, you'll see these different objects. So the first part is to create neighboring terrains, and we don't have to worry about that. So we won't use this. We'll start painting terrain, and we'll switch this to raise lower terrain. Okay, so that's our next thing. Create, sculpt the terrain using the raise lower terrain button here. So we'll raise lower the terrain. So now if I click on it, I can drag and make mountains and stuff like that. So a couple things you can control is the brush size. You can make really large brushes or smaller brushes here. And then opacity is how strong it is. So here's a lighter opacity, and here's a heavier opacity here. So you can control those things. You can also select different brush shapes here that you want to work with. So I want to create like a little island here with water around it to give it a size here, maybe a lake in the size of the train. So I'm going to actually lower things down. If I hold down the shift key while I'm painting, it'll lower things down. I'm just going to switch to a bigger brush and lower this stuff down initially. Okay. And now I'm going to make my island here, and let's get just kind of a strange size brush. So now maybe I'll just start kind of creating an island, paying a little more attention to this area here. I'm going to make, again, a lower area maybe in the middle here, and then just this kind of island looking thing see out here. Okay, so make some sort of a view here. And again, you can use your normal navigation tools to move around. Okay, so we sculpted an island. Now to get the idea of the size, we can put in a third-person controller. Now you could just add a cube. So if you just wanted to add a cube and make it a cube is 1 meter by 1 meter, but if you make it one meter by 2 meter, that's about the size of a person. And if you zoomed in on it, you can kind of see how, whoops, I made it the wrong size here. Let's see if I can get that right there. That's a person size. And now, but it is down below the train, so I'm going to actually move it up in the train here. So let's click on my move tool and move it up. And see where I am here. I'm still below the train. But again, I find that not that useful. I like to walk around the train, so I'm going to add in the third person controllers. I'm going to go to Windows Package Manager, look through my starter assets, switch this again to just my assets. And I assume you've downloaded the starter assets here, because we've done this in everything. I'm just going to grab the third person controller and import that. Okay, and import that. Okay, once I've got that imported, I can just go to Tools, Starter Assets, and reset the third person armature, and it'll create a third person controller over here. And you can see how small that is compared to this whole terrain here. So and again, I want to make sure he's either just a little bit below above the train. If he's inside the train or below the train, he'll just fall here. But now I can actually try this out and run this and kind of see my train, hopefully. Okay, so I get an idea of how big this train is and kind of an idea of this. Okay, so again, that helps to set a scale, and as we go through, we can do more stuff with him. So he'll be there. Okay, so we've done that, added this. Now we're going to add some texturing and then some trees and then some water. So the next thing is to do some painting. Right now we just have this huge grid. So we're going to go back to our paintbrush, and rather than raise lower, we're going to go paint texture. And we're going to paint some different texture. In order to do that, we need to create some texture layers. So you can hit Edit Layers, Add Layers, and there's some built-in layers here that I have. I'm going to do the sand layer first, because whatever layer you do right away will fill up the whole thing. So the whole thing now starts as a sand object here. And now we can add another layer, maybe add a grass layer. I'm just going to double click on that. Now once I have these different layers here, I can just I can resize my brush a little bit, and I'm in between here, and then I can paint so this in here. So oops, I've got to click on my green layer, and now I can paint green in here. And I can add another layer if I want, maybe a gravelly layer. I can add that in. And again, I can switch between these and paint in these different layers here. And again, you can kind of change the play with the opacity here of this, and then the size, and also the brush shape a little bit, so you can get a little better, you don't have quite so distinctive lines maybe in here. So I'm going to go by my player here and also just paint a little bit around the player so I can kind of see some different aspects. So now when I run this, I won't necessarily see the grid. I'll see some tiled pattern here of what I'm seeing for this. And again, depending on, now I can see like the different pattern over there where it's painted differently. And again, we'll learn more about how to set up tiling here and normal maps and stuff like that when we have these layers here. The layers are in terrain, textures, smooth, and then there's these different layers here, and we can set up the different tiling options. Often we do like a 10 by 10 tile or stuff like that, and we can add what is called a normal map to this too, but we won't worry about that right now. We'll just paint in a couple layers. So again, go around and paint in, well, your tutorial. So I'm going to have sandy beaches and water. I guess maybe I'll add my water, and then I'll do some more painting here. So let's go on to the next thing. Add some trees here. So again, go back to my train. Let me see. I'm going to bring the my armature, my person up more into this view area. So I'm going to drag this person up and into the train more and then see how they're doing. So they're below the train right now. I'm going to drag them till they get above the train there. So now I can see their shadow and that person's above the train. Okay, and where I've raised it up a little bit also, so let me bring them up. Okay, so I moved the person. Now we're going to add some trees here, which is a similar paint thing, but rather than on the paintbrush, we go under the tree area. So there's paint trees and also paint details. This is like bushes and grass. We're going to skip over this right now, and we're just going to do some paint trees. So there's no trees specified, so I have to add some trees to my list. There should be some trees here. It doesn't have any, so I'm just going to click on this and locate my trees. Let me move this on the screen. So there should be some simple trees, like here's a palm tree. I can just click on that and add that to my list. I could add more trees, add tree. Click on the little dot here to bring up my list and add a conifer tree here and add that. So it's a little multi-step process. You add the tree, then you have to click to locate the tree, locate one of these trees here. You can double click on it or just close the window. It'll put it in here, and now you can hit add and it'll add it here. Now once you have these trees here, you can paint the trees. Now you've got to be careful with the brush size and the density of the trees. So if I want to just paint this broad tree here, I can just click here and just say paint, and it'll paint a whole bunch of trees there, very dense here. And if I hold down control, I can get rid of those trees. And so I want to reduce the tree density here and do some more painting maybe here. And maybe I want to put in some palm trees, so I can switch to a different type of tree. Too much there, control to get rid of them. And then I can change, kind of my brush size here and then the density of this. And I can try to paint things. I actually want my brush size down a little bit smaller, I think. And just paint some palm trees along this edge and maybe along here. Okay, so again, that's under this paint, this tree option. You add some trees and then you can paint them. Now when you run this, you will see our trees. Let me get up here to see our trees. You will see the trees here, and they should be shadowed and stuff. You're probably, depending on how they're set up, you may collide with them too and stuff like that. But that's our trees that we've painted. Okay, the last thing we're going to add is some water here. So we're going to find the water objects. It's in the standard asset environment, water, prefabs, and then we're going to use the daytime water here. So let me just make this a little bigger here. There's basic. I'm going to skip the basic water now and just go into water and prefabs, and there's both a nighttime and a daytime water. I'm going to just drag one of these waters out here, put it on this area here. And notice it's not very big. And I can make it, so I want to make it a little bigger here. And it's just a plane, so I can just resize it in a couple directions. I'm going to drag it over so it's more by the person. And then I can see, I can move it up or down and see how it fits in the landscape. Okay, so now let's just see what that water looks like when we play the game. So let's see. So there's my water down there. That's available for this. Okay, so that's the basic water. Now, I want that water, I want this to be an island for this water. So I'm going to make this water much bigger. So I'm going to go to the resize tool and start dragging this and make this water much bigger. So it basically covers this whole grid here. And then I can resize this so it's in the middle of my square. Okay, see if I can get all the corners done. Maybe not. Okay, so now I've got that water, and then I can also set its height. So again, you can see where the area is, and I can raise and lower, so I can make it just a couple islands or one big island. Or if it's too low, it'll be below that. So I'm going to make it at about this level here. And then I can run this and see the water, hopefully. So here it'll look like kind of ocean. Now this one doesn't have any waves in it, or it has very little waves or stuff like that. So I can also add a water in here. I'm going to make a little lake in here. So I'm going to add another water here. Maybe I'll try out the basic water too, so you can see, or the water 4. That's a nice water. So I'm going to go to Prefabs and water 4 advanced, and that's got some rougher characteristics to it. So I'm going to resize that. And I'm just going to make that in the in my little island area. Now I have to worry which water is higher or lower. So I want to make sure this water is a little higher than my other water there for this. So there's that. And now I can try this out and see this water. So again, this is my general water, and then I can run up the hill here. So here's the interior water. This is what's called water 4. Unity used to have a number of different water sets that it came out in their standard assets, but they've stopped doing that largely here. But so this is just an older water asset that I've included in here for you to use. So there's just water and water 4 are the two waters that are available here. Okay, so those are the waters you can play with. Now, let's stop this. And again, we've just begun to do this, but now that we kind of have the layout, maybe we'll lay out this. I want maybe a sandy beach here and then some grass. So I'm going to go back and click on my terrain and go to paint some textures. And again, I'm going to maybe click on this, and I'm going to need my brush size a little bigger. Not quite that big. And then be able to paint in some green here around this area. And then maybe up in the mountains here, I'll have some rockier stuff up there. Maybe out in the one part of the coast will maybe be a little rockier. And then do some more green here, rotate this around. So again, you can just kind of work on your environment in different ways, painting some textures on here in different things, and then also painting some trees here for this. So again, maybe I want just palm trees around there. And again, if you're out too far, you won't see the trees, and trees will tend to slow things down. So try to zoom in and see how your trees are doing and what density you're painting them with. Try not to paint them too densely here. But I can put some palm trees around here. In my island. So, and again, one thing you'll realize is how big these areas here, and then I can add maybe some conifers up here, and maybe some other trees around here too, and then save your level and try it out for this. Okay, so I'm hopefully on a beach. It looks like the beach might be a little bit too big. I can run up here and get into the trees. And I can have a couple different kinds of trees here. We don't have that many trees available, but you can add in a couple more, and we'll look at different packages to add more trees. And I can explore this whole region, but you can get an idea of how big terrain is and how quickly you can create a relatively large world in which to explore. I'm beginning to finally see the lake now in the middle down there for this. Okay, and there's much more you can do, but that's just the basics of how to create a terrain.